Good morning, everyone. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you for the WeConnect team to bring us all together here for this topic of HMI, which I believe is a super exciting one. And I'm also blessed to be here together with the other colleagues from Unity. As a few of you might already know, Unity has its origin in gaming, right? And this is where I also want to start, because this is where my journey to where I am today and what I'm doing today has started with. So that little fellow here on the left side, that could have been me in my college, in my high school times. At that time, gaming was quite a nerdy thing, right? I don't know, may I ask you, how many of you are doing actually games? Like mobile games, PC games, anyone? Okay, that's quite a bit. Don't be shy. I mean, it's still a bit, right? But at that time, it was really a nerdy thing. Today, it's a social phenomenon. A lot of people are doing games. Mobile games, Unity is powering more than 70% of all top 1,000 mobile games today. And even I'm right now in pretty difficult discussions with my wife to purchase a Switch to do gaming with my family. Maybe Christmas, let's see. But these numbers speak for themselves. The average gamer age today is 37 years. 53% of all gamers are between 18 and 49 years old. 81% of Generation Z people are mobile or game players. This is significant, right? It's a thing. Everyone basically is doing one or the other game and has a playful mind. We can also see this, and when I did my internship at BMW at that time, I studied computer science, and I found my way to the automotive sector pretty early in my career. I found what you see here on the left, this big refrigerated size of machines, HMIs, that power VR installations to evaluate car design in a cave, in a VR environment. Even years ago they did this, but it was really a heavy lifting of compute power, and it was quite expensive, to be honest. Today, we see a lot of these use cases being fulfilled by game engines, by game technology. You see standard GPUs, standard PCs, standard Linux clusters doing that stuff, and gaming technology, like the Vive headset from HTC or other equipment like that. So most of the automakers are using game engines and Unity in most of their processes, some more, some less, some really already end-to-end, to fulfill certain tasks in their product creation process. From assembly simulation, as you can see on the top left, where it's about to check if a battery pack gets assembled easy, which actually is not only used in design, but also in the after-sales process to train the actual guy or lady that assembles, disassembles, or needs to be trained on doing that task. Then visualization of complex data, like aerodynamic data coming from different solvers, but need to be carried over to decision-making platform, which makes it easy to collaborate across platforms. In that case, it's an AR application running on iPad. The same technology is then used to bring the end customer experience of having a car on your kitchen table at home to communicate the benefits of an actual end product to your customers. Up to mass image production done by VW here, their configurator on the web is powered by a Unity instance in the cloud that produces more than 25 million images per day to power the configurator. So you can see game engine technology is used in various use cases because it's not a specific task that can be done with it. It's more like an end-to-end approach. So you can already see that gaming technology has the potential to change the automotive industry, and it did it already. And I want to talk today with you about how that can be elaborated for or used and leveraged for HMI. There is a quote from Mercedes' chief design officer, which is, "Screens are the new horsepower." I believe that's a pretty true statement. It's not only about the size of displays or the number of displays, it's also about depth. You know, there are stereoscopic displays coming, there are haptic systems coming where you can interact freely with a 3D scene. All of that drive a demand for more interactive, more 3D content. So the users we see today expect a more integrated, more graphical, more 3D usage and UI to power all of these systems from hardware side, but also from what they know from their home devices as an iPad, as other smart devices. And it needs to be more individual, as we see mostly on the Asian side of things. People want to individualize their HMI experience. That is also correlated to what I heard from Aaron from S&D, that you need to move faster and you need to iterate during the life cycle of a product. Another driver and trend we see is autonomous driving. I know it's not moving as fast as we all have been told. Mercedes just achieved a level 3 autonomous driving certification in parts of America. I know it's only 50 kilometers per hour, but we're getting there. That fact will give us more time in the car not actually driving. And even passengers in the back seats and on the front seats can participate on that today. So what you see here is Mercedes and this driver is doing a session of Tetris in the car while he's driving on the highway. Tesla is using Unity already to power their arcade user experience to provide games inside their cars. I'm not sure if it's really about putting a game you already have on your handheld on a slightly bigger screen into your car. Maybe, but maybe it should be more about providing experience that you can have only inside a car. A car has a fundamental difference to a PlayStation or to a device you have at home. It moves through environment. It's had a lot of sensors. It is connected, and that gives the possibilities to build experiences you can have only inside a car. But you need the right technology to do that. Another thing is the connected experience. We are very proud to be one of the first technology partners of Apple, providing the capabilities of Unity to create experiences for their new Vision Pro headset. To be frank, it's a major leap in technology, but it's still a bit of a bulky device. But this is 2023. Think 5 years from now. My kids today are 6 and 8 years old. When they are on the age of commuting to work or meeting their friends, that's probably 10 years from now. That needs to be an integrated, connected experience. I believe the mobility experience is something that should not start in a car and it should not end in a car. It should start in your living room and it should end in the cinema, or it should end in your work, or it should end in the fitness center. And that means a rethinking of mobility experience in an end-to-end manner. And I believe only the automakers and the providers that embrace that idea even today can make it to the future. These are, by the way, all places where Unity is already today. More than 90% of all HoloLens experiences are made with Unity. Another aspect is, or what we see in the market, is that automakers want to build their own ecosystem. That means, we heard it already from S&D, an HMI is not a static kind of deployment anymore. It's something that should live through the life cycle of a car. That means you need an ecosystem to provide content for this platform, so to say. So that's another trend we see, that car makers are striving to position themselves more like software players. Mercedes-Benz with the MB.OS, CarRHMI, Volkswagen, and so on. We will see what the future brings, but it's definitely, how should I say, a good idea to do that when you consider where the world is moving at, with more and more software players providing mobility solutions. So to summarize what we heard, HMI is becoming more important, more graphical, and more 3D. There are still performance constraints due to limited hardware, definitely, that will change over the years, but currently we see already a good shift. We see mobile chip capabilities, but it's still a limited factor. HMI workflows, to what we know, are still a bit disconnected and not really agile, as we see it from other markets. There's a lack of monetizing that content. Currently, not a lot of, let's say, marketplaces in the car exist or ways to monetize experience inside the car. And there's a lack of an ecosystem like said 5 minutes before. So let's talk about a few user stories and to give you some examples. So the early adopters of using Unity inside the car, for them it's mostly about making the car the star again. So that means you see the car you're actually sitting in, more or less, becoming a central piece of the HMI, so you can really connect more with the car you're actually sitting in. That is mostly step one, and this is where most of the car makers that are using Unity already today are using it for. We have, of course, more examples. Some of them I cannot share, but this is something I can share, where someone is already thinking ahead of that, which is more about procedural content creation. This is something you can really do nicely with a 3D engine like Unity. So wherever you touch, these flowers start to bloom. This is not a kind of fixed, textured, baked-in solution. This is procedurally created through a real-time engine, in that case Unity, to provide a kind of screensaver environment. It's not, it's a neat thing, but it shows already where you can go with. If you take sensors into account, if you take what I just said, the fact into account that you're moving through environment and then procedurally amend the content you see or generate content, it's a huge potential for artists and visionaries. Up to the very end of things, where our partner Meta and BMW is working with the Meta Quest to explore the capabilities of AR and VR inside the car. This is definitely a bit off, but who knows? As said, Vision Pro, and maybe 5 years from now, 10 years from now, AR is becoming a common thing in your connected car experience. But let's talk about something we are very proud of. We have joined forces with Mercedes to deliver the next generation HMI. From 2024 on, cars will be equipped with Made with Unity HMI. And I want to show you why Mercedes has decided to work with us. There are mainly 5 reasons. Let's start with the visual quality and top performance. So, Mercedes was always very visionary about their design. Maybe some of you know the AVTR design study, which was done in conjunction with the Avatar movie. Very ambitious goal of providing a user experience. The latest one was the Vision EQXX, where the whole navigation took a very central and prominent part of the UI. So it was very important for them, and I can only show you the design studies because confidential, but you can see already that navigation is taking a central part, the car itself taking a special part. All is set in a nice 3D canvas. You will still see a lot of flat design because that's still the thing to go for, but these flat designs will live in a 3D world, so transitions and interactions can be made more fluent and more human-like. And then we see things like this AI avatar, I would say, on the lower right, where they strive for having a human interaction and a kind of AI character that interacts with you on a text speech input level. All of that living on this massive screen needs performance and visual quality. So Unity is delivering on both, because I told you we're coming from mobile gaming, and this is something we know since day one. There's a game we call Boat Attack. It's something we provide as open source, which runs nicely on this hardware specs. It's a full-fledged game, actually, running on decent 40 FPS on 4K by 1K resolution on this IMX 8 chip, together with an HMI mock-up demo we did, which shows impressively the performance we can achieve on these kind of hardware. Those are the KPIs we had for a specific POC, working on a pretty full-fledged HMI solution, which has an EV cluster view with 3D map navigation, an ADAS view with real 3D map data, all of that fully loaded in less than a second, 760 milliseconds, which was quite impressive for the guys we were working there with. We were drivable after even less than half a second, based on these hardware specs, which are really low footprint on CPU and GPU usage, which is quite impressive for a 3D engine. All of that is possible because Unity provides a great way of profiling your project. If you really go into debugging and working on the tweaking of your application, a gaming engine, specifically Unity provides great capabilities to find out where you have the bottlenecks in your system and where you need to tweak. That is very important for your developers. Then it's about workflow improvements. So this is highly simplified, I know, but what we see on the car side is a pretty waterfall process with long iteration times, especially when third-party providers are in the loop, which is usually the case. But what we see on the other side when game developers are working on mobile applications, it's a far more agile, far more iterative process. You can build your project really fast and deploy it to the smartphone, and you have to test it on multiple devices on a really high frequency. This is something we can see on the gaming side. We believe that the game engine, specifically Unity, can provide these capabilities to your HMI design process. So in a nutshell, what you see here is, and Unity is not a content creation engine, it's more like the part where you bring content together coming from various sources like Photoshop, Figma, and others. So we don't want to take that away from the designers. The designers should still be able to work in the tools they used to work with. But Unity is great in bringing all of that content together and stage it in one single place. And from there, you can easily prototype, you can bring it on your device very easily, very early in the process. And through that, get in a more agile way of bringing all of that together, test it, integrate, and deploy it. And last but not least, it's obviously providing downloadable content and enriching an already delivered solution like a game with additional content is something we do every day on million, if not billion devices worldwide. So keeping your end solution alive and enriching it with additional features is an easy thing for us without updating the whole system, and because it's super modular. Then there's the end-to-end capabilities. Unity is super customizable and extensible. One example is, in that case, Mercedes has this interface one called adapter to their CAN and Linn world, and so you have to make sure you connect to these data inputs, which is not always the same from car maker to car maker. By the way, a great discussion to have around standardization about these kind of things, inputs, outputs. But it's easy to connect to existing systems and through that, keep Unity in the loop already very early when you still have simulated inputs to your machinery. That is really quickly done, up to design workflows where a specific design department has specific needs and they're working in their manner. And to adapt to that is super easy with Unity. Even without restarting the editor, you can implement new scripts, new plugins, and so on to fulfill the specific needs of your design department. That was very important for Mercedes because obviously they cannot change the whole tool chain overnight. So it's more like an iteration and evolution of the process than a revolution. And I believe there's great value in providing a single aggregated digital twin where you can experience the whole car, including driving physics, including the user experience, including the full holistic user experience of the car at a central place. Today we have driving simulators. Some of them have pretty crappy graphics, but really high physics, or they have high graphics but low the physics. Some of them don't have UI integrated at all, so you have to go to another place to check in the UI. So have all of that in a very integrated place is something a game engine is really great for. So it's not only about Unity, there are also other game engines out there, but obviously also Unity, because we're really good at delivering HMI experience, is really well suited to be this integrated piece where decision makers can come together and say, I want to drive the car in its current stage of design at this integrated digital twin. And then it's about ecosystem. So it's not only about our partners in In the HMI world and the supported hardware, we have supporting mapping solution and partners. It's also about our broader ecosystem of strategic partners we have globally out there. We currently support more than 17 platforms where you can deploy Unity projects to, obviously with hardware constraints. So if you put in a full car, fully configurable, it probably won't run on a low-end hardware, but potentially a small Unity project can be directly deployed to more than 17 platforms. So that connectivity I told you before to really work end to end, it's something we know since day one. And then it's really important that there was a really important piece for Mercedes, the millions of creators around the world with more than 1.5 million monthly active developers in Unity, currently more than 700,000 students being trained on Unity. We provide a rich ecosystem of users and developers that you can use in your projects. But if you thought about what I told earlier, that it needs to be a living ecosystem one is deployed, you need to provide content for, so you have to make sure that there are users out there providing that content. And this is something that was really important for the strategy and vision of Mercedes and obviously also others. And last but not least, it's the partnership on eye level. So it was very important for them to hear from us that I told you we're coming from gaming. Why should we put a game engine into our really important central heart of our product? So we are focusing on this industrial usage of Unity since years. We provide the business capabilities to interact with an enterprise company like Mercedes on eye level. We have support structures. We are very committed to that. We have more than 500 employees now, really focusing on only industrial use cases. It's not a hobby for us. We really mean it. Industry and industrial applications are really important for us. It's the biggest growth market for Unity. And therefore, that was important for them to hear that it's something they can rely on. And we are really positive for this long-year partnership. And we are aware of the constraints that come with HMI, like long-term support, contracts, and so on and so on. All of that is something we are committed to. And we have a great professional services team that doesn't leave you alone. We know it's a transition from where you are today to maybe this new way of working that includes toolchain improvements, but also real hands-on support in building your HMI within Unity or experiences with Unity. So we have a pretty big team of professional services resources around the world that help you bring that vision to the road. And talking about vision, the Vision EQXX from Mercedes showed already where the road is going to. I hope I shared a bit my excitement for the future of HMI. Mercedes is heading into the right direction. Others are following fast. Watch out for more details and messages around this later this year. And with that, I want to thank you for your listening. I hope it was exciting for you. I'm looking very forward for discussions with you. We have a booth over there. My colleagues from Unity, if you might stand up shortly, are over there. So if you want to go into discussions, feel free. And I'm also happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Open for questions.